Good day, Internet.
Hi,
Hey,
Internet.
Internet.
How you been?
How the heck is it going?
Did you get a new mustache?
What?
Hey.
I went
Well-
to I'm
I
wearing
didn't
a
want to say
sweatshirt-
have you lost weight because that could be taken the wrong way.
Right, of course, yeah.
By the
yeah,
internet.
like you look good. You look
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I actually said that to somebody the other day, and she was like, "You noticed?
Oh.
I've been going to the gym," and I was like,
Oh.
yeah, you look great." But it wasn't like I wasn't like you've lost weight.
Right.
I just thought that she looked like good and healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh,
she
you
was
sh-
like, and I've been working on it.
That must
So-
have made her feel really good to get that
Yeah.
sort of like,
It's-
oh, wow. it
You really
shows.
had the thing is though, you really have to kind of know that person so you can judge, because you just like
You really don't. You can just
Well,
say.
you either
look
have
good.
to know them well or just be like, you look good.
Or just say it anyway. Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know
Sometimes there have been times where someone's like, you look great. And I'm like, no, I don't.
no
You
I
know
rem-
better.
What are you doing?
Don't
Someone-
do that.
Someone once came up to me. It's like, Roger, you look good. You lost weight. It's like, yeah, I've had the flu for like the past 4 days. I lost a lot. It's not like I'm
Lost a
like.
lot
Keep
of
it up.
fluids. Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's
not
working.
Feeling great. Yeah. Keep the flu.
Can you
the
keep me your
flu.
doctor? I like that.
Could you infect me?
Where's my window? I was just trying to get a little
I mean,
breeze
have
in
you-
here.
Have you ever?
Speaking of this, so this morning, I don't know why I'm wearing a sweatshirt today, but I am. It's
Okay.
not that hot in LA today.
You have a brand deal? Is that what it is? You have to disclose that if you
Right,
do.
yes. Me and Adidas. Wouldn't that be nice? But no, this morning I went to the corner store as I do. And Eduardo, my favorite person who works there, he was like, love that.
It's like a stylist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, this sweatshirt? Like, I mean, I've had this like
Yeah.
since I was in college. Like, it's not fancy.
Hey,
And
you know what?
Is it 'cause it looked a little retro?
Muy bonito. I like it.
It's retro.
Okay.
That's why it's in fashion.
I guess so. Yeah.
I will say, when you said corner store, for half a second, I thought you said my coroner. Like you say when you said when I went to my corner
Can you
store.
imagine if the corner store was a coroner?
Like I went to my coroner. It's like what? You
I
can
love
have
my
one of those?
sweatshirt.
No, I don't have a personal coroner yet. Knock on wood, everybody.
Went to my corridor and he's like, would you like to be buried in that? Because you
Yeah,
look
but,
good.
yeah. But you don't
look
really spend too
great
much time
in
with
red.
them.
He wasn't. I don't even think he was like, you look great in red. He was just like, I like that sweatshirt.
That sweatshirt, yeah.
And I was like, thank you.
I mean,
think
maybe he
you've
likes
seen
the
me
brand.
in it like a lot over the last couple of years, but okay. I'll
Some
take
people
it.
are way into brands. Maybe it could have been that
Should
too.
have kept my members only
Yeah.
jacket when I was a kid.
Oh man.
They made a comeback, didn't they? Members only. I think that comeback has already ended now. But
Yeah, but something
don't
about
like
would
a
it,
couple of years ago, I think members only jackets were briefly back in style.
are those epaulets? Like because they pop off like
Well, they're
or-
shoulder pads. Yeah, I don't know. Are they technically epaulets?
because they snap off and you're supposed to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
stick like a hat, or at least in the military you put your beret in there and you
We
snap.
used
Yeah,
to love
I never saw
starter
anyone do that with
jackets.
a-
Wasn't
Ooh, I
really
love a
members
starter
only,
jacket.
but similar. But like
I have a
oh,
St. Louis
like,
Browns starter
like I would
jacket.
get like my boyfriend's starter jacket and get to
Yeah.
like wear it around for the day.
What
like,
kind of
so
starter
cool.
jacket was it? What team?
49ers, of course.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, it could have been the Giants. You know,
I
they had
know.
starter jackets.
I mean, trust me, kids in my small town of California didn't always just only root for Bay Area teams, but mostly, yeah.
yeah.
Niners, like it was like all gold and glossy and
Very slick.
jacket.
Yeah, one of my
It was
classmates.
very
from,
exciting when you got to wear it for a while.
One of my classmates from high school. Oh no, he didn't end up with the Niners. He ended up as a second string quarterback for one NFL team. I don't remember which one. But my
Story
The
keeps getting
Raiders?
better.
I know. It gets
That would have
getting
been
less
another
interesting.
Bay Area team.
But there was one girl that was in my year, graduating year, that ended up becoming one of the Gold Rush cheerleaders. But they only last for like a couple of seasons, and then they.
There was
replace
a
you.
girl in my high school who became a Raiderette when they were in Oakland. Wait,
Wow.
no, they were in L.A. at that
Oh.
point. But she lived in Greenville in Illinois. I don't know how that happened. I guess she just went and auditioned.
I don't remember exact time or years of like the Raiders being in Oakland where they started, then going to LA where they got really popular and then went back to Oakland. But I do remember, well, because my family was Niners fans, so we didn't care about the Raiders. But when they came back to Oakland, it was a big deal. It was a really big deal.
I remember all the ads. The silver and black are back.
Hurry up, Al Davis, come back.
Oh, remember the bumper
they were
stickers?
in LA from 82 to 94. So yeah, it would have been like 88 when she became a Raider and then they went back to Oakland in 95.
Remember all the bumper stickers? They called them the LA Traders, and they were like, people were like really steamed that they moved from the Bay Area.
What's weird is
I
that
feel like
didn't
at this
happen when
point
they
it's
left
like-
LA. People in LA still root for the Raiders, even now that they're in Las Vegas. They're like, yeah, we don't care where they went.
Yeah, they're like, they're
I
close.
think because the Rams left around the same time, so everybody's like, well, we might as well just stick with the team.
Oh, that's right. Huh. They became the St.
I mean,
Louis?
Yeah, they were in St. Louis
For a
up through
city
the
of
90s.
sports teams, no football team in LA for quite some time.
Well, listen,
2 minutes.
I fixed that because
you,
when I
Tom.
moved
Thank
to
you.
LA in 2014, there were no. Oh wait, 2013. There were no football teams, and now there are 2.
Yeah.
So you can thank me.
Single-handedly really
Yeah.
turned things around for us. And now we're hosting the Olympics in a couple of years.
And now my family hates me because the Rams left St. Louis to go.
Wait, what's the second team? Why am I...
The Chargers.
I thought they were... Oh, they're...
You'd be forgiven for not realizing. But yes, they moved from San Diego to LA. It was the weirdest thing. We all thought, oh, the Rams and the Raiders are going to come back to LA. And then the Chargers came, and that's why the Raiders went to Vegas.
It made no
So then-
sense.
So then with the San Diego
I don't know if anyone has ever been
San Diego
to a
doesn't have a
Chargers
football.
game in San Diego. The arena stadium was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like it was weird. It wasn't like bad. It was just sort of like, what's going on here? So I can see where the franchise would make more sense in LA.
I went to a Chargers Raiders game in LA the first season the Chargers were here. And the entire stands were filled with Raiders fans because all the people in LA were still Raiders fans. Mm-hmm. And the one guy that was a Chargers fan that they talked to during a timeout, when they said, what do you got to say? He said, let's go San Diego.
Well, you know, sometimes it's hard to let go of the past.
Habits, old habits.
Mm-hmm. They die hard.
Yeah,
It's
they
a Christmas
live fast
movie.
and die hard.
It's a Christmas movie. Yes. It isn't really a Christmas movie. I don't know why people say that, but okay.
It
Fine.
is. It's just,
It
you
kind
know,
of
for
is.
some definitions of Christmas movie, not all.
Yeah.
Have a good show, everybody.
Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
Beware the Ides of July. From Studio 7 in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
Also with 2 eyes, I am the show's producer, Roger Chang.
You don't have any eyes.
Oh.
Well, he has eyes.
Oh, I was thinking eyes in your name.
He's,
You
his
do
eyes
actually
without a
have
face.
optical
Well,
eyes.
that's the whole point. All of us misunderstood everything that was said previously, and therefore we made our
Well,
own
it wouldn't be the
spin-off.
first time.
That's how the internet works.
The only thing that saves us is you making DTNS Live possible. Big thanks to Kirk Stephenson, Miranda Janelle, that Charlie dude, and man, the new patrons, they're coming with the usernames. Welcome, Robotic Earth.
Hey, Robotic Earth. Good to have you. Whether you're a robot or a human or just on Earth, we are happy to have you.
Is that like
Yeah.
Earth?
Yeah, does that mean that Earth becomes a robot?
Or do they
Like,
mean
as a planet?
Earth as in like
I mean,
the
I think
soil?
we're going to be a robotic Earth in
We
in
may
no
already
time
be.
at
I'm
all.
just- we don't
I mean,
I
realize.
don't
wouldn't that
really know
just
what
be-
that means, but
Isn't that just
feel that-
Cybertron, the planet of the Transformers?
We're going to talk about robo-taxis later in the show. So maybe that is the first step.
Ah,
towards the
yes. Robotic Earth. It's already happening.
That-
Okay, everybody, welcome to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news together to help us all understand it a little bit better. Roger Chang, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's a little toasty up here in Northern California, at least in the Central Valley. It's toasty, but not as toasty as yesterday because that was that was 3 digits. and
Toasty has a
today's only-
positive connotation sometimes. Like ooh,
3-digit
So-
toasty though is
yeah.
like
That's
So,
not
I mean-
toasty. That's burnt.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's
You
the
burnt
thing.
your toast.
I mean, toasty, but you could also, this is the thing about heat. It can either be nice and comforting, or it can be oppressive and sort of debilitating, right? Like,
Yeah, nobody says cold is oppressive, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Cold is like bone shattering, uncomfortable, but never oppressive.
Yeah,
No one
oppressive
ever-
would not be the way I would describe like, hey, I need like a
I-
scarf.
Bitter,
Also,
bitter. Cold is bitter. Heat is oppressive.
Yeah,
but
there
you also
go.
don't sit here like, I feel the heat in my bones.
Is cold bitter because heat is oppressing it?
I think that's a philosophical debate that we should take up at some point in the future.
Somebody ask ChatGPT and get back to us.
When it gets done
chat.
spinning its wheels.
Now, Tom, I asked Roger how he was. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you for asking. I am hanging in there. It's actually a cooler day, so that Roger, come back. We miss you.
Yeah, it's actually 10 degrees cooler.
Yeah, it was
The
so funny
farthest south you
on
go,
my
the
on my
Yes.
walk. On my walk with Otis the dog this morning, it was it's summer, and I live around several elementary and junior high schools, so the kids just kind of aren't out in the morning as
Yeah.
they are during the rest
school
of the
year,
year.
right.
So if I'm walking at 7, it's like it's dead. It's like I'm like, where's everybody? Oh yeah, the kids aren't in school. They're sleeping in.
But there's also no traffic, right?
Well, I mean, people are still going from point A to point B.
But no one's like lining up to drop off their kids at school.
No, not at all. No, the schools are like just shut down. But I thought this morning, it's been a while since we had any wind, and wind in LA is always scary because fires. And
They say when the Santa Ana winds happen, anything can happen.
Well,
and now
and
that
it-
means fires.
yeah, it very much does. But I was like, I haven't felt like a breeze in a while. It's very windy now. Just a few hours later.
Everyone knows it's windy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody
stormy
loves talking
eyes.
about weather. So fun. So fun.
Good.
But before we get into some tech news, if you are listening or watching us live, hi. How's it going? You can name this episode. You can head on over to dtns.showbot.tv to submit titles and vote on them as we go through some stories, and you get some fun ideas. We will check back and on the votes at the end of the show. All right, let's kick it off with a few stories that caught our eye.
NVIDIA and AMD are among the companies that have been told that their license to sell certain advanced chips to Chinese companies will be approved. Since April, neither company has been allowed to sell its chips. NVIDIA wants to start selling its H20 accelerator chip that was originally designed to comply with earlier trade curbs. AMD will also get to resume sales of its MI308 chips, similar to the H20. Those will also be available to sell to Chinese companies now.
That will be a political football, at least in my prediction, for the next decade.
Next decade, really? I don't know
Yeah.
about the decade part, but yeah, that's what Jason and I were talking about this morning. It's like, okay, this is good news for NVIDIA and AMD today.
Yeah.
We'll
I
see how
bet-
long those licenses are approved for before they get rescinded.
I bet my 3 unscratched lottery scratchers the next decade.
You better not forget to scratch those.
Yeah.
Gotta
Like,
scratch
why
that
haven't
itch.
you scratched them?
Listen, it is the superpositioning of your of
but you don't want to
gambling.
scratch them after they're no good anymore, and then find you had a winner.
Do they have? I mean, the expiration date's what, like 3 years?
Okay, all right, you got time. That's good.
Yeah, but
yeah.
what if you were like in the I don't know.
What if I became homeless and I was sitting
Think of
on
all
$1
that
million?
interest
Yeah,
you could
like-
have built up over 3 years.
Right, like what if you were like a $6 billion billionaire and you just didn't know?
Yeah. In
Because
3
you
years,
just never
NVIDIA's
played
H20
Powerball
license
that
will have
day.
been given and revoked 17 times. Come on.
Yeah.
Listen,
true.
if you can't win if you don't play, but I also don't.
You also can't lose if you don't scratch.
That's true. You can keep that dollar. All right. So Apple announced it's investing $500 million, speaking of dollars, over 4 years into mining company MP materials to boost U.S. production and recycling of rare earth magnets used in devices like the iPhone, for example. This would expand MP's Fort Worth, Texas facility, based in headquarters in Las Vegas, but they have a facility in Fort Worth, and create new recycling center in California as well. Apple says this will support U.S. manufacturing jobs and further its use of recycled materials, building on a partnership with MP, which has been going on since 2019.
Yeah, this does a couple of things. First of all, it gets Apple to say more parts of its devices were made in the United States. It's a small amount of rare earth minerals that you don't have to buy from China or elsewhere. And the recycling thing, I think, is the most interesting, because this is them trying things, but if they hit on some things that are working, they would be able to save money and keep rare earth minerals that are in existing products from going to waste, which would be huge.
Indeed.
Also huge is Rivian is rolling out a software update today for its EVs that replaces the in-car navigation map with a custom Google map that Rivian collaborated with Google on for over 18 months. Now, features of the new map include estimated time of arrival, traffic updates, place information, and satellite imagery from where else Google Maps, plus tappable points of interest. And one of the things they did mention was they didn't just want to take Google Maps and just plug it in. They wanted something that felt and looked like it was part of the Rivian. Well, yeah, it had that Rivian feel, so it didn't feel out of place in the car.
No, I've never had a Rivian. In fact, I've never actually been inside one. But I had to laugh at this one a little bit because it's like estimated time of arrival. Okay, Google Maps does that. Traffic updates. Yeah, Waze, Google, we do that. Place information, satellite imagery. Like it's if it is awesome and different in some way from the sort of awesomeness of Google Maps, which it has been for some time. I'd love to hear about it. It's
probably just look and feel. Rivian had some kind of UX design that it wanted Google Maps to look like. That's my guess.
Yeah, the idea, of course, being that if you were using the Rivian map before, you wouldn't feel out of place. Like you wouldn't have to relearn everything.
Well, as a Volvo user, and I love my Volvo. Shout out to Volvo, love you so much. Their proprietary map situation also a mess, just a mess. There's no way I wouldn't use CarPlay, and I use both Apple Maps and Google Maps within CarPlay. But yeah, I assume that Rivian was sort of like, you know what, let's go with Google on this one. All right, everybody, those were 3 top stories that caught our eye today. Let's talk about Reddit and age verification. The company started age verification checks for UK users, in the UK specifically, to comply with the Online Safety Act going on in the region. This requires a user to upload a government ID or a picture of themselves through third-party service Persona. So, you have an ID or you do a selfie, basically. Those who are deemed to be minors will be blocked from accessing mature or otherwise harmful content that is, supposedly not meant for children. Reddit says it won't store verification photos, only birth dates and just the status that you as a user told them you have. The platform says it may expand checks to other regions if similar laws are passed, but for now, it's UK only.
This is the beginning of the people really feeling the effect of the Online Safety Act in the UK. And yeah, Reddit is only going to store the birth date that has been verified and the fact that it has been verified so it can prove that if the government or Ofcom comes and audits them. So you have to trust Persona. That's what you're dealing with. Do I trust Persona? Because Persona will keep your photo for up to 7 days, they say. Are they actually getting rid of it? Are they getting rid of the scan of your ID? Yes, they say they are. It's something that is a matter of trust between Persona. I wouldn't get too focused on the Reddit part of this. They're just using the vendor that is authorized under the law for them to use, and they have to follow the law.
Yeah, I think there are a few questions that I've seen out there on the internets, talking about this story. Some people say this is overreach, regulatory overreach. Other folks saying, well, is Persona using AI tools? Does that, play into this?
Yep.
Okay. And then, does this hurt, Reddit in general? Do people say, I'm not going to do it. Don't want you to have my, my driver's license or government ID. And then I think the most interesting one, which is just laughable to me because I know how kids are, is like, how does a minor get around this? A minor gets around this very easily. You just upload a selfie of you that makes you look older than you are.
You have to have a government ID, but that's not impossible to get a hold of. So,
Right. Or to doctor. Listen, I'm not saying, this is like so easy and it doesn't mean anything that Reddit is doing this. I just feel like if kids want to get around stuff, they will. We've been doing it for
it's not as easy as it sounds. Like, I feel like a lot of people will be like, so you just take a picture of your dad and upload it. They need it to be live. They make you do the selfie and turn your head and stuff like that. But you can get a friend to sit in the chair and, say it's them. Like, there are always ways. It may not be as easy and, ridiculous as it sounds, but there are always ways.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how this plays out, society wise, but also how these platforms, how people use these platforms moving forward from this point on. Like, will people just assume, well, now they can just attach my face to any sort of comment I've made, because although they might not, they say they
Reddit doesn't keep your face, so they wouldn't be doing that.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Well, I think you're hitting on something important though, Roger. It's like Reddit and Persona saying, hey, we're not storing the stuff. We're just using it for verification. And once you're verified, you're off and running. Is that really true? Not everybody feels that way.
Or I do think it would be unfair and inflammatory to imply that Reddit would get this information because it's working kind of like wallets do, where Persona is just telling Reddit, this is the birthday and it's verified, and that's it. So Reddit doesn't get that information, but Persona has it. But Persona also doesn't have access to your Reddit account. So that part I feel pretty comfortable saying, like, those aren't connected.
No, and I'm definitely not implying that, but I am saying that people will have in the back of their minds possibly
the perception of that
perception, and
they just won't want to do it, right?
Exactly.
And so it'll keep them out of certain parts of Reddit.
Will it see a drop down in postings, users, activity? I'm just curious to see how this looks.
Probably not, but certain subreddits are going to suffer, and then that could cause some censorship to be put in place on subreddits. They're like, well, we didn't want to be all ages, but not enough users want to go through the age verification, and we're very UK focused, so we have to make it all ages, or we won't survive.
And this sort of, as we're talking about this, I feel like it implies that, like, if you're on Reddit, you want to see like the craziest subreddits. Not everybody wants that. I don't even want that.
Definitely not. Yeah.
It's like you could be 14 years old and live in the UK and be like, okay, I'm just gonna, age verify and keep away from stuff that is not even in my wheelhouse anyway. And great. It's not necessarily like a thing where all kids want to, get into the weird stuff. I mean, that's been the talk of the internet since the dawn of the internet.
Kids won't want to age verify either, so they'll stay away from the weird stuff, which is the point of the law, I suppose. But Laminar Rainbow says, in my opinion, usually stuff like this makes it harder for good-willed users, and sketchy users find a way around it.
Well, there's that.
Yeah, I mean,
there's that as well.
Sketchy
users find a way around everything.
Well, yeah, and they might have a different motive for accessing or being part of that Reddit versus somebody who just like, hey, just somewhere to hang out, talk about a subject that I'm super into, say like automobiles or I don't know, gardening.
But those wouldn't be age gated.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So like, or something like, relationships or something a little more adult. But definitely I'm curious to know how this impacts the use of that platform and if they have like, more people of this age are using or less people of this age stop using or whatever.
These kinds of things usually don't have as dramatic effect as people are worried about, but they do have an effect, and you kind of don't know what it is until it's been in place for a while. And then sometimes it's like proving a negative. You're like, well, maybe more people would have gone to these kinds of things, or maybe these kinds of subreddits would have thrived and been, a fertile ground for people to understand this or that, but we won't know because they didn't, because nobody wanted to go to them because of the age gating.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want to see the workarounds. I would love to see the ingenious, very clever workarounds that
the kid wearing a mustache.
Doesn't even have to be a kid. It could just be, it could be something like, someone who basically rents out their profile. So like, hey, you log into my profile or nah?
I mean, I don't think it's as easy as that. Everybody's like, oh, so you just, do this, do that. These companies know those tricks. They're not idiots. But that doesn't mean they're foolproof either. So there are ways. But like you say, Roger, I'm curious what those ways are myself, because that kind of penetration testing is always interesting to watch.
I also think it's interesting that a platform like Reddit, I mean, Reddit is not 4chan, but it's still, fringes, of the internet, depending on, where you're hanging out in Reddit. A friend of mine recently was like, oh, yeah, like Reddit's still a thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, very much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a subreddit for literally anything you've ever thought of in your life. And he was like, oh, I thought it was like, like where the bad kids hung out. And it's like, it's 2025, right? It's like, sure, I guess. I mean, like also
there are bad
there's
kids
the gardening subreddit where a bunch of really nice people are talking about plants. Like
sometimes the bad kids are on the gardening subreddit giving great advice.
Maybe gardening is like child vernacular or teen vernacular for some other behavior. Yeah, I'm going to go gardening.
It's just
Russell
it's
Teixeira
interesting
says,
to me that it's people just are like, oh yeah, no, I don't go to that. No, I don't. That's not the part of internet that I'm here for. And it's like Reddit is like not all bad.
Reddit is all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's everything.
Russell Teixeira says use AI. Persona uses AI. They it's not the only thing they use, but they use some computer vision algorithms to assess the age of this stuff. They use a couple of human checks and things like that. So they are using this. I honestly think that if we had a better identity verification system where kids would benefit by using it, let's say we had a centralized identity system that we trusted, and you're like, oh, I'm going to get a discount if I am honest about my age, or I won't be able to get into my school basketball game if, and buy tickets if I'm not honest about my age. And that was a thing that was standard and everybody used. You wouldn't have to age gate, because I mean, you could age gate, but you wouldn't have to do this kind of verification weirdness, because people would be encouraged to be honest about their age, because they'd lose benefits if they didn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, whether you are a minor or a major, as it were, The Verge says that Uber is close to completing its quest to become the ultimate robo-taxi app. Tom, what is going on?
Yeah, so Uber announced it's going to partner with China's Baidu to let people schedule rides with its robo-taxis outside of the US and China. Baidu is testing its Apollo Go vehicles right now in Dubai. It's saying with Uber, they're probably going to focus on Asia and the Middle East, but it does have plans to expand to Europe. And this brought up the fact, and this is why Verge used that headline, that Uber now has partnerships with Waymo, Motional, Avride, May Mobility, Momenta, Volvo, Volkswagen, Wave, WeRide, and now Baidu, just for autonomous cars. It also has partnerships with Serve, Coco, Cartkin, and Neuro for delivery robots, little sidewalk robots. Mm-hmm. It has trucking partnerships with Aurora and Torque, and fleet management partnerships with Avomo and Move. Uber CEO Derek Khosrowshahi said in a Decoder interview in May, we want to work with all the software providers, make sure they're safe and affordable, and bring them to market. So the question is this the right move for Uber, right? Waymo's kind of the test case. In San Francisco and LA, you have to use the Waymo app and you book it direct. In Austin and Atlanta, you use Uber and then a Waymo can come to you. Sarah, as somebody who's actually used the Waymo app and booked a ride, but also has taken Ubers, do you have a preference about which platform you'd like to see win out?
The only preference I would have is which way is cheaper. That would be the only preference I would have. I've said this many times before. In my area of Los Angeles, there are Waymos all over the place. I mean, it's not even weird anymore. It's like, they're just like 1 in 5 cars is a Waymo. They're going somewhere. Sometimes there's a person inside, sometimes there isn't.
Yeah.
And that used to be how I felt about Ubers. Like, oh my gosh, you just hail a car and they come to your house and you get to go to your destination and you pay them and it's all, you don't have to use cash. I mean, that was, gosh, I mean, when did Uber launch? Like, it was 2010, I think. And it was San Francisco that we all lived in at the time. So, it was very prevalent. And
March 2009, actually. I thought
March
you were right with 2010. But it was even a little earlier.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, they were Uber Taxi before they were Uber.
Yeah, they were black car service originally, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I probably just didn't start using
So
it
2010 is
until
probably when
2010.
they started doing the rideshare thing.
The rideshare stuff. Yeah, and then there's Lyft and, the Waymo stuff, Waymo on its own is, I've done some math, some educational math, and it is always a little bit higher of a price than taking an Uber where there's a human driving you. And for some people, that probably makes sense. It's like, I just want an autonomous taxi. I don't want to be in the car with anybody else. Or maybe I'm going to have like a personal conversation on the phone. Well, they're still going to hear you. But I don't, want that other person in the car with me. I know a lot of people who feel that way about autonomous driving. It's like, oh, it's so nice. I just don't have to be in the car with somebody. And for me, I'm kind of like, I'll just do the cheapest one. Cheapest option to Burbank Airport. Is it Waymo? Well, Waymo doesn't go there yet.
Yeah, right.
But or is it Uber? But I do think that Uber is very smart for doing this. I think that Waymo probably wants to get on the ground in more places than it is now, and then won't need Uber anymore. That would be my guess.
Well, so the question then becomes, which one can give you the cheapest ride, right? Waymo obviously benefits by operating directly because then it has full control over its system, but it also has the expense of maintaining that system. It's probably cheaper for Uber to plug Waymo into its existing system marginally than it is for Waymo to operate an entire system. So there's an economy of scale of saying, you know what, we'll pay Uber a little bit in order to be in their system, and that'll be less than we would pay to run the system, which is why they're doing it this way. Google is running those numbers right now and saying, okay, is that really true? We're running it in San Francisco and LA. Is it, how expensive is that versus what we're paying in Atlanta and Austin? And then whatever's cheaper for Google would put less pressure on them to charge you more. Although frankly, what they're going to charge is whatever gets people into the cars, right? It'll go down if there's more cars than people, and it'll go up if there's more people than cars.
Well, and don't forget, I mean, Uber Eats, when Uber Eats launched, it was directly competing with Postmates. Then Uber bought Postmates.
Right.
And now, Uber Eats is how you get your food. Like if I want some pho tonight, I can get it, in 30 minutes or less type thing. And if Waymo cars become part of that, which they are not right now, if they can become part of that whole transaction thing, not just about, me having to go to the airport or go to a friend's house or whatever, but just taking things around, I think that changes the game a lot. And that would be why Waymo would, keep a partnership with Uber, because that's in depending on where you live, and it's different everywhere, but in somewhere like LA, it's like on Uber Eats, that's how people eat half of the week. They really do.
Yeah, and I think Uber, because they had a fatality early on, backed out of developing the cars themselves. But I think Derek Khosrowshahi realized we can benefit without having to build the cars, right? And so what was true, what I was saying earlier about, well, Google wouldn't have to operate the system if they rent it from Uber. Uber doesn't have to develop the cars if they just provide the system. And they can provide multiple systems. I mean, we're talking about Waymo because that's the example near us here in LA, but there's Motional, there's Avride, there's, Momenta. And in some places, those may overlap, and Uber provide both. And then you go into Uber and pick, like you say, Sarah, which one's the cheapest? Oh, I'll go with Momenta today because they're having a sale.
Right.
And you might not have to have the brand loyalty, but you're still using Uber to book it.
Yep.
Yeah, part of it is just kind of risk hedging, right? Like if you're not all in it, you suddenly don't have to worry about all the other, like the management of the actual, the app and the tool.
The benefit of providing the platform, right? That's why Amazon doesn't make all the websites, but they do provide AWS to be the back end for.
When you're at this scale, there's still a benefit to partnerships where you aren't exposed 100%.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest example is Android and Apple, right? Apple has the entire stack under their control, and there's benefits to that. Android is open source, licenses out to Samsung and Lenovo and everybody else, and there's benefits to that. Uber wants to be the Android of robo-taxis.
Speaking of robo-taxis, and I just thought about this now, I was on the road in my neighborhood the other day, and I was like, that looks like a Waymo. What is that? It was a Zoox.
Oh, Amazon's company. Interesting. Yeah.
I think they are plotting their competitiveness in mapping it out basically. Yeah, I got close and I was like, that is not a Jaguar. No.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, because it said Zoox. I was like, oh, interesting. And it was more of like a little minivan than a sedan. So yeah,
a lot of the Zoox stuff is meant for delivery, which Amazon's pretty good with the delivery thing. So that
they
makes
are.
sense.
They definitely have that one on lock.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see. Let's leave the freight side out of it for a minute, but just on the passenger delivery side, I think we're going to see multiple platforms. Some of them direct from the robo-taxi maker, some of them not. But you're going to have choices in most cities. Mm-hmm. If you think I'm wrong or right, you can tell me in our Discord. Maybe you think I'm neither. I don't know what that is. Please explain in our Discord, which you can join by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
Oh, Tom, you're always right, except when you're not. But actually, you're always right. It's very annoying. Microsoft is trying out a feature in Windows 11 that would use its energy saver more often. It could be an energy server, I suppose, but it's an energy saver. So what are the deets?
Yeah, now you've cursed me. I'm going to make all kinds of mistakes in this. Microsoft is testing in its Canary channel the idea of using Energy Saver based on your workflow instead of just your battery level. Energy Saver right now in Windows does things like lower your screen brightness, reduce system processes, cap the power delivery to your CPU and GPU because you don't really need it in order to save your battery, but also just save power because it doesn't have to be a battery-powered laptop. This will work on your desktop. Right now in Windows 11, Energy Saver kicks in when your battery falls below 20 to 30%, or with a desktop in certain cases. The new version is called Adaptive Energy Saver. It only works on battery-operated stuff. On their blog post, Microsoft says, Adaptive Energy Saver is an opt-in feature that automatically enables and disables Energy Saver without changing screen brightness based on the power state of the device and the current system load. This will only be available on devices with a battery. So this is rolling out as a preview Windows 11 build 27898. If you're in the Canary channel, you can get it that way. So it may or may not make it to shipping Windows 11 for the rest of us. But if you're trying out stuff in the Canary channel, you can give it a shot. Roger, what do you think of the idea of, even if your battery's at 90%, Energy Saver kicking in to extend it a little longer?
I actually have used something very similar now. Dell offers a tool called the Dell Power Manager. Now I use a precision workstation, so it's a business laptop, and what it does is it will adjust the charge and the power usage of the laptop on the profiles you select. you have an option to pick either standard, express charge. What I have it set to right now is primarily AC usage. So it assumes I'm plugged into the wall 90% of the time and trickle charge the battery that way. Also has adaptive, so it will adjust based on what I use it for. So if I'm doing something GPU heavy, whether it's gaming or say I'm using Premiere Pro and I'm exporting videos, it will adjust that. I've always wondered why Windows never included something like this earlier, because it's a lot of third party as well as a lot of OEMs do make utilities, especially bigger ones like Dell, Lenovo, make their own utilities that manage that in order to give their users the longest amount of battery time they can possibly get with their platform. I love it, frankly, because on the adaptive, it will adjust. So it's not just about power usage, but it's also about heat, right? If you have a laptop with a very powerful chip, one of the byproducts is a lot of heat. And when it gets hot, what happens? Your fans start screaming and they get really loud. And so it tries to adjust that so it's not audibly annoying to you.
Screaming fans are good for bands, not good for your computer.
It's true. Or if you're like in a hotel room without AC and you need to cool down and the windows don't open, or they only open a little bit.
I mean, what hotel room doesn't have AC with the windows that don't open? Well, I suppose there are quite a few of them around the world, but yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a good question of like what took you so long, Microsoft, but I imagine the reason is that you have to make choices to do this. I mean, right now you have to make the choice to go find it and install it, right? But then, Roger, you had to decide what setting you want it on. And it sounds like what Microsoft is doing is saying, we want this to be really simple. You turn it on, you turn it off, and it does all the work behind the scenes.
And that is sort of the kind of crux of the issue is you have a user base, especially with something as broad as Windows. You have people who just use it for simple, like I check my banking account, I check my email online, and that's it. And then you have power users that are on their machines, if not 24/7, at least 10 hours of the day, and they are very nitpicky about picking and being, what's the term when you micromanagey about everything, and you have to kind of split the difference, because if you change something too much, you're going to annoy and upset one group over the other. And I can see that, but at the same time, like these tools have been out for at least 8 years or more or longer, depending on the platform you're using. But
it's like we all have those, for example, my Apple Watch, obviously not running Windows 11, but my Apple Watch will kind of be like, we're good. Oh, low power mode, low battery. And, so I'm like, okay, got to charge. And especially when some of your components get a little older, the battery life doesn't get better, it gets worse, right? So this whole idea of, let's just think about the battery even when you're at 100%. And, throughout the day, whatever you're doing, try to maximize that as much as possible is a great idea. Because I think, sure, I mean, yes, I can look at my battery life, on my watch or my laptop or my phone or whatever. And, I kind of know when I'm getting low. But if it can be at all maximized, that's awesome.
Yeah, because the point here is you want this to just work without you having to pay attention to it, so that your battery doesn't drain as fast. Because I'm just doing email. You don't need to be sending full voltage to the GPU. I don't need it right now. And if you can tell I'm just using email, then great. Cycle that down. And then once I launch my game, you'll notice, and then you can cycle that power back up.
And this is where Apple really shines, because when you own the entire vertical, you really can not only dial it in, but you can really adapt to it because you understand the hardware. With Windows, I mean, your hardware can be from anyone. They adhere to certain agree to industry specs, but at the same time,
Well, does that answer your question? Like, do you have a Dell? Is that why you have the Dell power management? So the reason Microsoft didn't include this on Windows is they were trying to make it work across all of those platforms.
I mean, that's most likely is like, how do we get the best user experience, but at the same time really manage with
a bunch of manufacturers?
And that's why it's opt-in too, because they know, Roger has a Dell and he's using Dell. He may not want Microsoft getting in there, but maybe somebody else has another model that doesn't have power management available. Now Microsoft can provide it for them.
And I find it interesting that oftentimes it's when the features that most people start like glomming to a third party app or a service. For example, Flux automatically dims and adjusts the color temperature of your monitor based on the time of day, so your eyes aren't totally stressed out by full brightness or whatever. Both Windows and Mac OS incorporated those features from that app like 5 years ago into their respective OSs, because that was a feature a lot of people like, this free app totally does it. I'm going to download it. And they noticed like, a lot of people are running this. Maybe it's onto something. So instead of just integrating the app, we'll just borrow some of the features and implement it on our own.
Yeah, I think this is, I think it's a good test. I actually think it'll probably make it through, and then it'll be one of those settings you have to know exists to go turn it on, because they're probably going to leave it opt-in for obvious reasons. But a cool test that they're doing, and I'm glad they're doing it.
All right, Roger, let's talk about accents, shall we?
Oh, wait a minute. You don't understand me? I know my Central Valley accent might be a little off-putting.
I understand you most of the time. It can be a little weird sometimes, colloquialisms. But all joking aside, having technology reflecting cultural traits of a user base, important for a lot of people around the world. So one of those traits is an accent. Roger, tell us more.
So the BBC has a really interesting report about the UK firm Synthesia, which has compiled a database of UK regional accents. Now, these are either compiled by recording the actual speaker in a studio and recording, snippets of their conversation or what they say, or collecting the material online. So, in other words, from third-party sources where people have already, done, whether it's like a read or something else or a movie, they have that. Now, what's interesting is this database is used to train its generative voice model called Express Voice. Now, for people who aren't familiar, Synthesia is known for its text-to-video AI generator that is used to create kind of studio quality videos if you want to do sort of like a talking head about like a new product or news or something like that. Now, the company's head of research, Yusil Alami Majid, said the customers wanted more accurate regional representations. Quote, if you're the CEO of a company or if you're just a regular person, when you have your likeness, you want your accent to be preserved. And this sort of underscored for me that as we get more sophisticated with a lot of these generative tools, whether they're LLMs, machine learning, people want something that is reflected of them, right? We've had this argument before when it came to something like spell check, where like, well, no, that's the American spelling of the word color. I'm in Britain. We add the U after COLOUR for color. And there, when you now have things that speak to you, and things that have mannerisms very, tied in with a specific culture, you want that to be reflected, not just reflected, but reflected accurately.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a good idea. I also feel like we're all Roger, Tom, and I, and everyone out there. We're all from different parts of the world, and I think that there is like an inherent thing where if someone's speaking in an accent, even if I can understand them, same language, but I'm like, oh yeah, you're not from around here. There's sort of like do we really mesh? Are we the same kind of person? Do we have the same values? People, it's subconscious in many cases, but there is a lot of that goes on. And the more that, I'm not saying it's like everyone should speak exactly the same way that I do, not at all. But there is a lot of kind of like, ooh, where are you from? Who do you like? What's your deal? And the more that, the AI version of us can get to something that feels like us, people, I think, will feel more comfortable.
And there's an element, people often throw this term around, kind of cultural imperialism, right? You're going to speak this way because all the training videos have this accent. And so when people learn, for example, English as a second or third language, and all your training videos aren't a particular accent or a dialect or whatever, you will learn that English that way. And they gave a very interesting example in this article. A lot of their French-speaking customers also commented that the synthetic French voices they heard through a lot of these generative tools sounded French-Canadian rather than metropolitan French. And this quote was because the companies building these models tend to be North American companies, and they tend to have data sets that are biased towards demographics that they are in, or at least conveniently close by.
I think this is such an interesting story because of that example. You would expect Parisian French to be dominant because it is the most dominant culturally out there. And usually Quebecois are complaining like, whenever we hear French, it's always Parisian French. We never hear our French. So it's kind of like turnabout is fair play. Like now that we have the AI companies in Montreal and they're all trained on our data sets, now everybody sounds like us. But the point isn't you get to win. The point, and I think that's what Synthesia is trying to do here, is say you should be able to hear the voice that makes you feel most at home, right? Maybe it's not even a voice that sounds like you. Maybe it's a voice that sounds like your mother or father because they had a particular accent, and that's comforting to you, and it's easily understandable. But I know it's a big deal when folks are like, oh, wait a minute, that voice sounds like me. It sounds like people I know. It sounds like people in my family. It immediately makes you more comfortable using it versus what we usually have, which is some flat, either American or British accent for English, usually that is not really representative of anybody's accent, but sort of the average broadcast accent, the BBC accent in the UK, or your kind of Midwestern flat nightly news accent.
And I mean, what's interesting, you bring up the comfortability, because one of the things that, for example, another example the article brought up was the West Midlands Police in an internal document. They were showing some concern that the voice recognition systems that they were using wouldn't understand the Brummie
Yeah, it goes
accent.
the other way. I didn't even think about that. You're right.
Where without a diversity of accents, not everyone speaks the same. And if you have these tools that you're selling to the broad general public, it needs to be able to adapt and understand, right? If you're using the voice assistant and say like, order me more paper towels, it needs to be able to understand, a good swath of the population that you have that installed base with.
Yeah.
Well,
and
X
pointing out it's the same problem for other languages than French and English. It's also Spanish. There's wide varieties of Spanish in Central and South America versus European Spanish and all of that. So it's a problem for multiple languages and a problem for Mandarin, right?
It is. And this is one of the weird things that I found interesting is they also included a third example where Bloomberg reported that Sanus was developing a tool for call centers located not in an English-speaking country, but so they could neutralize the accents of, say, the Indian or Filipino staff in a call center, so it sounded more familiar. It didn't sound as foreign to the person calling. And I found it interesting because it was trying to adjust the technology both ways.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I mean, we've all gotten that spam call, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, you're from a call center, nowhere near here. Now, maybe the spam call is something that you're interested in pursuing. Maybe
you answer
not.
the spam call?
Tom, I do that. This is what I do for fun.
That's true.
I'm a
We've
very
had this
lonely
conversation.
person.
You're right.
No,
She wears
I'm
an
just kidding.
Adidas sweatshirt for a reason.
Yeah, but no, I do feel like even take AI and sort of feeling good about large language models out of the equation. There are times where for example, I live in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood of Los Angeles. We all understand each other. but there's a language barrier. I often I will sometimes watch a show, and maybe they're doing UK English, in Manchester or something, where it's like, oh, I really have to think about, what does this sound like, or Ireland, and I'm Irish. I mean, love the accent, but, boy, you get into, certain neighborhoods and I'm like, I really can't understand you guys. But all that to say, that can be fun and just sort of like, hey, we're all different. But when it comes to learning stuff, education, again, somebody who calls you, who's trying to sell you something, or for whatever reason you want to answer that call. This is all interesting stuff, and there are just regional dialects that I think we're just going to learn more about.
And, there's a cultural component, right? For me, when I used to hear Filipino call centers, I never really considered it to be a foreign call center. Like I grew up in the Bay Area, so a lot of Filipino speakers, so it just sounded very natural to me.
You're like, oh, tita, Lola.
Yeah, like oh, hey, like I totally talked to your cousin the other day.
Yeah, right.
So it's very interesting because you're not tackling a technical issue, you're tackling a cultural one, and so there are so many other things you need to consider besides when you judge the accuracy of speech, when you judge the accuracy of understanding speech, and it's it does show that a lot of people do want something that reflects them, because it is very important, especially if you're using this technology on a regular basis, that you feel comfortable with it.
Well, and it's something we can do now. I mean, that's the other part of this that I we shouldn't overlook. When Amazon Echo launched, it was difficult for them to create multiple versions of it. When Siri launched, it was difficult for them to create multiple versions, which is why you have like a handful of voices for each language. Now you can train them on available data. You just have to do it. And then you can have it have a Mancoon accent. You can have it have a Busan accent. There's no end if you're willing to just collect the data and train it on what kind of accents you can deliver. So I'm glad somebody's doing that.
Have you guys done the on Tom on your pick or Android phone? Have you ever used the screen my calls function where
Yeah.
I noticed when I did it one time, I was calling my phone from a landline. It's like, holy crap, the voice sounds like me. Like it does. It literally it doesn't sound perfect like me. But
Mine's not. That's so interesting. Mine's a woman.
Oh no, mine is. I don't know if mine is. See, now I'm wondering if maybe I was on.
It must be. There might be a setting or something that
Yeah.
I flipped or you flipped or something. We'll have to investigate that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What is also interesting is all the emails that we get every day. Thank you to everybody who emails us. We don't always read them on the show, but we do read them all. So in that vein, let's check out the mailbag.
Yeah, so David wrote in about our brief talk of Chrome OS and Android merging at the top of yesterday's show. This whole merger and comparing to iPad merging features with Mac OS, I think, is in both camps an unproven model or hobgoblin product. While nerds and geeks like us are always ranting about wanting this, I'm not too sure anyone else is, the general public at large. And let's face it, the closest anyone got to merging a touch and keyboard-driven interface was Microsoft with Windows 8, and that was an epic failure of biblical proportions.
Ooh.
Is a hobgoblin a different type
David's
of
voice.
goblin?
Yeah, what's a hobgoblin? I've heard this term before.
I'm always curious. Is it like a...
I don't know how a hobgoblin is
it-
different than a goblin.
Is it like over like a stove?
Maybe it's like a
hob?
goblin that hops.
A hobgoblin product can refer to several different things, but it most commonly refers to English ale. Thanks a lot, Gemini. That doesn't help at all.
English ale? Like
yeah,
beer?
there's a brand of beer called Hobgoblin beer. Yeah,
No,
AI doesn't know. That's the answer there.
Oh, way to go, Gemini. But no, David, I think we get your point.
Yeah.
The point of is
merger,
Chrome OS and Android, this is going to be something that some people are going to like and some people just don't know or care about.
Yeah. And is it the worst of both worlds kind of thing?
Yeah. We also got an email from Gary writing in about our conversation about startup fiber internet companies yesterday. Gary says, I live in South Orange County, that's in California, and a company named Cityside Fiber recently installed underground fiber in our neighborhood. Today, a rep came by. I showed him where I wanted the fiber to enter my house. The installation should be complete by the end of this week, and it replaces the Verizon 5G home internet we've been currently using. Symmetrical 1 gigabyte internet for $80 a month. Can't beat that.
That is great. Congrats, Gary. That's awesome.
It is awesome. I know. I'm jelly.
I'm going to look them up.
Maybe I
Jealous.
should move to South Orange County. Remember, you can send in your comments. Again, we really, really appreciate all of your feedback. It helps us make a better show. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Of course, if you're a patron, you can also comment on anything we post to Patreon as well.
Big thanks to everybody who's been submitting those titles. It is a battle royale to figure out who will win the crown of the title we will use today. The Wraith 86, top of the table with Schrodinger's scratch card, referring to Roger's scratch cards that he keeps on his side table.
Oh, the lotteries. Yeah. Oh, okay. I was like,
never knowing whether they're winners or not.
Got it. Yeah.
The Wraith also submitted, I have no eyes and I must see.
Well, Roger was like, I have eyes, Sarah. I was like, no.
But it's a great take on that book. I have eyes. Oh no, I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
I want more battery life, Father, from G. James B.
I don't know why that's so funny. It's funny.
Thanks for bringing football to L.A., Tom, from E. Clay Thomason. You're welcome. Glad I could help.
Thomason also had IDs without a face, which makes me think of Billy Idol.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's what you were going for, but that's what I heard.
Language is not universal from GPEG 84. Well, film is the universal language.
Maybe.
Roger has eyes from Zoe. Oh, there's good ones in here. Screaming fans are for bands, not PCs.
It's true.
I mean, in a perfect world, that's exactly right.
Oh, and E. Clay Thomason, can AI localize what you vocalize?
Now, I know not everybody has a Mac Mini, but I just want to shout out my Mac Mini that there is no fan noise ever. It's just it's the most quiet little adorable pet.
Any ARM-based PC processor these days has virtually no fan noise.
I know.
Be it Apple or otherwise.
It's just, I was so used to that. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, computer is wheezing. Computer is wheezing.
It's not going to make it up that
now
hill.
I'm like, you just don't. I mean, I'm sure I could push it to, some point, but no, they're just
Maybe
quiet.
he needs
they're
to
just
see
silent.
the doctor.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, what should we go with for our title?
Well, this was a tough one today because we got a lot of submissions, but we went with E. Clay Thomason's Can AI Localize What You Vocalize?
Congratulations, E. Clay Thomason.
Yay.
Good title. Big thanks to everybody who watches us. I know we had folks in LinkedIn watching us today. Lots of folks in YouTube, a few new faces in there. Good to see it. Everybody watching us on Twitch, like PC Milesy, who gave us some bits. Bullweef gave us a follow. Technomensch with some bits and some flags. Zoe cheering us with bits and flags. Willie Scott back for the 67th month of delivering the tech news. Looking good doing it too. Woo! Thank you, Willie Scott. Thank you, everybody who supports us, including our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS.
Indeed. Well, everybody, if you're looking for a new podcast and you haven't checked out Apple Vision Show that I host with Eileen Rivera every week, we would like you to hear the good word. And that is that we talk about Apple's vision, whether it matches what we're looking for. We talk about news. We talk about software updates. We talk about all the rest. Get subscribed now at applevisionshow.com. As for our show, you can find us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2000 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. For all our live listeners and watchers, we salute you. And we'll be back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.